I believe that nonprofit executive directors and leadership are the ones that should be writing their own grants. You do not need a grant writer. And with AI, it makes it even easier. We can use Chat GPT to leverage some of our ideas, right? But what I believe is that you as a nonprofit executive director or a founder are the best person to write your grants, because often you will hire a grant writer and they don't know the beautiful, magic, nuanced transformations that your programs and services make. They are not as passionate. They don't understand what a basketball court or a mentorship program or a support group will do for your population. Okay, so they write a grant, but they don't have all of that beautiful background experience, knowledge, and passion that you have for your population and the outcomes that you want to make. So it's important that your passion is translated onto paper in that grant that will help you get that funding. Also, when grant writers write grants, often if you let them do all of the work and you do get the funding, now you are just looking at it going, okay, great. Now we need to execute all this stuff, and now I need to familiarize myself with what we said we would do. Just not a great place to be in. You want to be getting that money going, sweet, now I get to execute on all those things that I said I would do. In the funding proposal, writing a funding proposal should be like, oh my gosh, if I got $100,000, what would I do with the money? And you get really excited. And then when you get the money, you already know exactly what you're going to do because you wrote the thing. Okay? All right. So today I want to talk to you about how you can write those grants using Chat GPT and do it in a fraction of the time that you used to be able to. All right, let's dive in. Welcome to episode 60 of For Purpose Live, where I help you get clear, get focused, and be impactful simply by showing you how to step fully into the calling that you've been given without taking on that common narrative that nonprofits have to struggle. That's right, together we can get you in your sweet spot using your strengths and your talents to serve this world and build a movement for your mission simply by living for purpose, on purpose. I'm Rebecca Britt, your host, and today we are talking about leveraging Chat GPT to write those grants because you should be writing your own grants. I believe that. Now, I have a free one-pager. It's a funding one-pager. It's editable, Google Doc. You can open it right up, get right in there, and change it for your brand, your programmings, but it's going to give you prompts on writing the problem, the solution, why should somebody give you the funding, what's the funding going to take. And this is really important to get this one pager done before you dive into writing a full-fledged grant or funding proposal, because you want to get some of these ideas, make sure they come from your head first, make sure that they're the outcomes you want to get before you're prompting ChatGPT and leveraging that. All right, so you can go grab that completely editable funding one pager at forpurposelive.com/page. All right, so when you start with ChatGPT, you want to make sure you prompt it. So you basically tell it what it is. So for you, you would say, you are a nonprofit organization writing a $50,000 grant to start a support group for parents that have children in the NICU. Or you are a nonprofit organization writing a $50,000 grant to start a mentorship program to develop life skills in foster youth for healthy transitions into adulthood. What are they funding and why is it important? So now ChatGPT knows okay, I'm a nonprofit and I'm writing a grant. Okay, so the first section of the funding proposal or the grant that you can leverage ChatGPT for is the background. And this is basically the literature review. But in any grant or funding proposal, you need to make the case that there's a problem in society and that you have the solution. And you need to show evidence of the problem. And you also need to show why your solution is going to be successful. Is there evidence that shows that solution is probably a good one to fund? Okay, so you are going to prompt ChatGPT to, this is exactly what you're going to say. You are a nonprofit writing a grant for a program or initiative for a population you serve. So let's say you are a nonprofit writing a grant for a mentorship program for kids in foster care. Write a literature review with citations in APA format on the root causes of the issue. So this might be the root causes of childhood trauma. This might be the root causes of children in foster care and what the impact of that issue is on society. Also, find literature on how a mentorship program or a support group or whatever your solution is a helpful way to address the issue and what long-term positive outcomes mentorship has on the foster care crisis, or support groups have on building a community for a certain population. Okay, so you want to tell it to find root causes of the issue. What's the impact of the issue on society? So really, why is this a problem? Also find literature on a particular solution. So on a mentorship program, on offering housing to people, whatever your solution is, and why that's a helpful way to address the root causes, because funders are going to want to know that you're not just being you're not masking symptoms, that you're not being a Band-Aid, but that you as a nonprofit understand the root causes of an issue, really how it's rooted, and that you are addressing that you know more, that you're not just transactional, but you're really trying to make some societal change if you can, right? So that's how you're going to want to work on the background. Now, it's going to give you this nice, beautiful literature review. It'll give you citations. Check those citations. If it will usually give you citations in text. If it does that, you can say, can you give me the full citations or reference list? Make sure you check those references, look through the whole literature review, and make sure that it makes sense. Okay? Edit it, refine it. This whole thing is just to help you, point you in the direction, and to write better than you can. Honestly, I mean, it's the truth. It's like Chat GPT, a lot of times we know exactly how our mission is impactful, and we're like, oh my gosh, I know that these moments with a kid are really helpful, or I know these moments that I have with families are transforming lives, but I have a hunch, but I actually haven't done the literature review, or I haven't looked into to see if this is evidence-based, but I know that it's helping. And a lot of times you prompt it to tell you, is this evidence-based? And it will come up with a whole bunch of evidence for your cause, and you go, I knew it because I was making outcomes, I was making positive outcomes, and it basically just backs up what you already knew. So make sure to check those citations. Now, what's great is now you've given ChatGPT even more knowledge. Now it knows not only that you're a nonprofit and that you're trying to get this grant for this thing, but now it knows root causes, it knows the problem, it knows the solution you're proposing. So now it knows more, and it's going to be able to help you even further with the grant. So the second portion of the grant, or the funding proposal, that you can use ChatGPT for is your approach. So this is your methodology. Like, how are you going to launch the support group? How are you going to launch the mentorship program? How are you going to build the basketball court? How are you going to whatever you're getting funding for? So for the approach, you say you are a nonprofit writing a grant for whatever the program is to serve this population. Write a 3-phased approach, including phase 1, researching what it will take to implement the solution. Phase 2, building and preparing for the implementation of the solution. And phase 3, launching and monitoring the solution. Okay, so you're asking it to break your approach down into a 3-phase approach. Phase 1 is research or information gathering. Phase 2 is building and preparing for the implementation. And phase 3 is launching and then monitoring. And launch and monitor is really important because you do want to build in time to be able to monitor even after you launch, right? That's what a funder is going to want to see, is that you're tracking outcomes. But why I love the 3-phased approach, or asking it to write it in a 3-phased approach, is now you're taking your approach, and rather just saying, oh yeah, if you give us the money, we'll launch this thing. A lot needs to happen before launch. And when you break it into a 3-phased approach, your funder starts to see, wow, they've really thought this through. They understand what they need to do in the research phase. They understand what they need to do in the prep phase. They understand what they need to do in the launch phase. And so you've broken it into digestible pieces for the funder to understand. But you also have articulated that this isn't just like, give me money and I can launch this thing. There are some phases to this project that take time and take money, so it helps you justify the cost, the budget, and the timeline. So even if it's launching a basketball court or erecting a basketball court for your community, even that should be a 3-phased approach. You're still going to want to do research and development, get quotes, job descriptions, put that out there. You're still going to need to actually build the thing, and then you need to launch it, and you need to collect all the data to evaluate whether or not it had the outcomes that it was supposed to have, right? Okay, so now that it's helped you with your approach, make sure it looks like something you're actually going to do. But what's awesome about this is Chat GPT has helped me realize what I was missing. So it's like, okay, if you're planning to launch a support group, you should do these things. You should do market research. You should survey the parents to see what time they can make it. You should, like, ChatGPT comes up with stuff and I'm like, no, that's a good idea. I didn't think of that. And so I'm adding things and making this methodology a lot more solid because ChatGPT has thought of things that I didn't think of. And for it, my program will be better and my funding proposal will be more robust and I will look like I've really thought through things. Okay, so no shame in that. If ChatGPT comes up with something you didn't think of, add it. Now, if it comes up with something that you're like, I'm not prepared to do this, or if I did this, that would be $75,000 and I know that this grant's only going to allow $25,000, then just take pieces out of the approach. It's fine to say that that's outside the scope of what you're willing to do. You're just taking the suggestions and using it as a place to start. The last part of your funding proposal or your grant that you can use ChatGPT for is experience and qualifications. This is what I call the what sets you apart. There should be a reason why your organization should get the funding over another organization, right? Especially another organization that serves the same mission or does a lot of what you do. So for the experience and qualifications portion of this, a lot of times people just say, this is the team, that, this is the years of experience we have, these are the partnerships we have, this is the funding we've gotten before. That's fine. What I suggest you do is have all that. So you have bios, right, that you can go copy and paste. You have your about page. So, maybe your about page says, since inception, this organization has been able to accomplish all of these things. Da, da, da. You probably have it written out somewhere. Some beautiful about page content. Copy that whole thing and put it into ChatGPT and say, write this better and in a way that will help me win the grant I'm applying for. And then it will just write your about page in a way that will help you win the grant. You can literally put something in ChatGPT that's sloppy or not specific to a grant, and you can say, write this better. That's all you have to write. Or I do it all the time. I write a paragraph that I'm like, that sounds pretty good. And then I say, write this better. It writes it way better. Or you can put all of that in there and say, write this as if I'm trying to explain the experience and qualifications I have to win this funding. Literally just ask it the thing. Just tell it to write it in a way that would be for this good grant. And it's going to be able to pull in all the information it already knew. You'll notice it starts bringing in parts of the problem, parts of the solution, parts of your approach, because you've already prompted it with that. So now it's getting used to writing this for you, okay? Honestly, if you can use this for your background and you can use it for your approach and you can sell why you matter, then you're so much in a better position to write a solid timeline and a budget. And then that's pretty much all a grant is. What are you trying to do? Oh, and you can do it for the project summary as well. So usually there's an executive summary or a project summary at the top, which is just basically a summary of your whole, what you're trying to do in your approach, all of it. So you can actually tell it, write a 250 word summary of this approach, or write a 250 word summary of the background and approach. You can tell it that, and it will stick to the word count that a lot of grants have. So there, you can write the summary. I would do that after you've written everything else because ChatGPT is going to know what it's writing a summary of. Okay, so you don't need to start with your executive summary. I would end with the executive summary. The only pieces I really don't use ChatGPT for are the timeline and the budget. Those are really specific. The timeline's what are you going to do this quarter, next quarter, and what are the key activities you need to get done? I just feel like I know what I'm actually going to do. So I just write those out and I bullet them out under quarters or phases. You could do your timeline in your phases. So phase 1 is going to have these key activities and it's going to take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. So you can write your timeline out. I write my full timeline out first and then I go back and write my budget because I'll see all the things in the timeline and then I know what is it going to cost to do all of those things. Okay. So you'll be way better positioned to write your timeline and budget once you've used ChatGPT to write your background, your approach, your experience and qualifications, and then the project summary. I hope that was helpful. Just prompt it, get in there and try, and you are going to feel like a wizard. I promise you. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, and you're going to start using this for a lot of other things. And I'm telling you, go apply for a lot of, get all your fundable ideas, write these proposals, get good at it, apply for funding. Once you start getting some winning streaks, you get some money in the bank, you'll be a grant winner, and you'll really start gaining some confidence in doing this. And then you'll feel great executing what you said you would do, over delivering on some of these grants, building great relationships with funders that want to come back and fund you because you have integrity and you do what you say and you report back. And you know exactly what was in the grant because you wrote it. All right, don't forget to go grab that free one-page editable template. It is at www.forpurposelive.com/page. I also have a 5-day grant mastery course where I actually give you all of these prompts and copy and paste. I show you how to do it in Chat GPT. I have launched that course recently. It walks you through how to write a stellar funding proposal and gives you the actual template to write a funding proposal. It also gives you copy and paste examples of funding proposals that I've written and won. Also gives you 2 secret weapons that if you add these in with your grants, they put you at the top of the pack. I'm talking about you can compete with the bigger orgs because they're not even adding these things to their grants. You can go grab that. I'll link it below. It's at forpurposelive.com/grant-course. But I will link that below. If you're interested in doing a 5-day grant mastery course, getting in there and just honing this skill, go grab that course. It's totally worth it. Trust me. I was afraid of doing grants, afraid of getting in there. But once I started winning money, well, it started feeling pretty good. And then I really got the confidence and I was like, I don't know why I wasn't writing these from the get-go. And I don't know why I wasn't focused more on this and not on begging for donations. All right. I hope this helps. Thank you so much for your service to this world. Until next time.